Welcome to the This Justin podcast by your host, Justin. And today we have a good one because today we talk about the Brooklyn Nets versus the LA Clippers. Last night, the Brooklyn Nets 1-0, 112, 108 victory. And it has me concerned for the Clippers. And I'll tell you why. Because Kevin Durant did not play in this game. And the Brooklyn Nets still won the game, and that is very concerning. Now, of course, Kyrie Irving and James Harden played well. I believe James Harden had 37. Yes, he did. And Kyrie Irving had 28. So obviously, and the Clippers stars. You look at Kawhi Leonard, 29 points. Paul George, 34, and that's a part of the reason why I think the Clippers losing is somewhat concerning because their two star players played well and they still lost. Now, why? Well, for the most part, their supporting cast was nowhere to be found. Now, I'm someone who believes that the LA Clippers supporting cast is elite, and they have got a lot of talented role players that are very capable to play their roles. However, last night that wasn't the case. So they're making me look bad, basically. And I think this game you could take a lot of things out of it. And what I'm taking out of it is that the Clippers need a third guy. And that guy's supposed to be Lou Williams, who only had 5 points last night. That is disappointing. Lou Williams, I don't think he's having a good season. The former Six Man of the Year candidate last year is ever since the bubble, man. Ever since the bubble, Lou Williams has not looked like himself whatsoever, and I'm quite concerned for Lou Williams. And I'm not expecting Lou Williams to be a Six Man of the Year candidate again. No, but I expect him to be a productive, you know, 18 points per game off the bench. I expect him to be that guy, and he's not. He's not nowhere close to it. And the Clippers need that third guy. I think Marcus Morris, who's shown, in the Knicks, and even though the Knicks, I always say if you want to pile up stats and lose games, go to the Knicks. That's where you go. But I think Marcus Morris is just a talented player because I think he could shoot, he could drive. He's very capable of scoring the basketball. So if there does need to be a third guy, I think Marcus Morris needs to figure out a way to step up. And, of course, Lou Williams should be that guy. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if he's getting old because he is 35. And, not everyone's LeBron and can play at a high level when they're old. But I didn't expect Lou Williams to regress this much. And quite honestly, I'm starting to think the Clippers should have traded Lou Williams before the season began, because Lou Williams was on a cheap contract. He only had what, $6 million paid, and he was a former Six Man of the Year candidate. That was his highest trade value. And I know some may say he didn't have much trade value. I disagree. A former Six Man of the Year candidate who's only getting paid $6 million, so he's cheap. He can score. You tell me that guy doesn't have value anywhere? I just completely disagree. I'm starting to think the Clippers should have traded him for something. Maybe a first round draft pick that they would later use near the trade deadline, which is right now, to acquire a Rajon Rondo. So I'm wondering about Patrick Beverley. He's been playing great this season, don't get me wrong. But I'm starting to think the Clippers should have made some big time moves to begin the season. I look at this game. I look at Serge Ibaka, only 8 points. As I said, Marcus Morris, only 5. Lou Williams, only 5. Zubaka was the only role player that had double figures this game. So, yeah, the bench as a whole needs to step up. They had problems doing this last series against the Denver Nuggets when they choked a notorious 3-1 lead. So they got to figure things out. I'm sure it's only rust. I'm sure, not rust, I can't even say rust because the two players that should be rusty played all out in Paul George and Kawhi. And, the bench has no excuses. They need to step up. I'm concerned because if this Clippers team doesn't find their third guy, They have no chance against the Brooklyn Nets team if they were to make the finals, and they have no chance against the LA team. And all the benefit, I think this Clippers team does have a chance against the Lakers, but they got to figure something out because they're an elite team offensively and defensively. They just need a third consistent guy to get them buckets. So, so to keep it short, it was a good game last night. The Clippers were down coming the fourth quarter, down by like 14 points. They made a little bit of a comeback. There was a controversial call at the end of the game, an offensive foul called on, I believe, Kawhi, but I could be wrong about that. Yeah, if that was the case, no. I completely disagree with that call. But, I think this game, I'm not necessarily paying too much attention on the game itself, even though, it's great to see the stars battle out. But I'm paying, attention in the long term. And I think both teams are. I think both Brooklyn is paying attention to, getting KD back and working as a trio and being dominant as a trio. And I think LA is looking at just establishing more chemistry and getting their role players playing elite. So, the Clippers got to get themselves together.